Hey everybody, Tim from Two White Dudes. Today is a big day. What we're going to do is assemble all of these parts onto the guitar body. We're going to make sure everything fits before we take it all back out and stain the body. So we're going to use a few of the tools here. We've got a little tiny hammer. We have an awl and a couple of screwdrivers to help us with the install, and that's all we're going to need. I think the first thing we're going to do is put the bridge on.
And remove all this stuff aside so we can do that. And we'll get everything set to the sides here. Take out those there. And
so this is the Schaller 475. Did a video on this in another episode, but so this is black chrome, really cool bridge. It has multi levels of adjustability for a roller bridge. These cool rollers here actually adjust, so as you slide them on that threaded portion that they're connected to, they move left and right. That's cool, so you can adjust it directly over the poles. So the Schaller 475 bridge has a adapter if you want it to be taller. If you don't want it to have this extra maybe 1/8 of an inch or so of height, then you could just take this piece off and mount the bridge right to your top of your guitar. So before we do any of this, we're going to need to take out a couple of the saddles. So this is super easy to take out the saddles. We're going to need to take out this saddle and this saddle in order to get to the screw holes. So on the back there are some holes, not holes. On the back there are some screws, and all you got to do is loosen it enough to pop that screw out away from the body of that saddle. All right, so that's what we're doing here. We're just going to unscrew that, and that popped loose. So these just slide right out. We're going to set these on the box because they are a little bit oily, and I don't want to get the oil or grease on the body. And then you just push the spring. That releases the screw, and the spring pops right out. Okay, and then we're going to do that. We're going to repeat that again for the A saddle. Okay, on the back.
and unscrew it. Easy. Okay, that popped out. Now I have a bit more tension. So pop that screw out of the back. Set that down into the same position. And now we can set the bridge down. We'll set the screws into the springs so we know how they came out. Okay, and the saddle.
With this bridge, we have 3 screws, 3 black screws that come with it. Pretty nice and heavy. And cool thing is, when you contact the guys at Warmoth, they can, if you tell them what bridge you're going with, they drill the holes for you. That's what's cool. And I don't have to worry about misaligning any holes or screwing them up myself, which is a very big possibility. So anyways, they'll drill it for you. All you got to do is put the screws in the holes and tighten it. So we've got our screwdriver. We're going to put this. We'll go in about, I don't know, 10 turns on each one just to make sure they're all into place. You don't want to tighten them all at once. You want to kind of get a little bit of tension on each one. So what we're doing here is just tightening them down about 10 turns, all right? Then as you get them in about 10 turns, you can start to snug them down. You don't want to do all of them snug, or you don't want to do one snug one and then get the rest. So you try to get them down a little bit of the way, because the holes in the bridge are chamfered for the heads of the screw. You want to give them all like an even chance to level itself out in the drilled holes. All right, so we'll do a couple little turns on each one. We'll start to snug them up a little bit at a time until they are in there nice and tight. Now, because this is a test fit of all the parts, I'm not going to tighten these. I'm not going to crank them down to what I will on the final assembly. All I want to do is make sure that everything here fits nicely, that all the wires, the pickups, that they have their spots to sit in, and then we're going to take it out and we're going to stain it. So, all right, so we got the bridge in. I'm not going to put the saddles back on because we're going to be removing it in a second. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to not put the pickup in just yet, but we're going to run the wires for the pickup because we're going to go to the back of the body next into the body cavity. So this is the pickup wire. This is the EMG 81X pickup that's going in it. Here's the pickup. Beautiful pickup. It's an active humbucking pickup. And again, this guitar, you can see it, is a single pickup type guitar. And so this is going to sit on the ring. I made sure that we're going to put this on the pickup ring. The string heights will be just enough to, when we put the neck on this guitar, that this is going to sit and play nicely with the heights. So I decided to keep the ring, the pickup mounting ring, rather than mount the pickup directly to the wood. So we're going to keep the pickup ring. All right, we'll do that next though. So all this pickup requires, and that's a really awesome feature of the EMG solderless connection pickups. All we're going to have to do is plug this cable into the pickup. That's it. No soldering. Solderless stuff is the way to go. So this will slide right in. We're not going to put it in right now, but that will slide in to the pickup. That'll be the last thing we do because I don't want to have the guitar sitting on the pickup as we work on the backside. So the other cool thing is that, ta-da, these wires are going into the cavity of the back cavity there. So Warmoth also will drill your holes, your access holes for your wires. So from your pickup, this hole here, you can see it, that one right there, is going down into the cavity of the guitar. And that's where your wires will go. So all this will do is plug into the pickup and it'll sit below the pickup. Okay. That's all I needed to do on the top. So we're going to flip this thing over. We're going to access the cutout here in the back. We're going to get the rest of these components fitted. Okay, next thing we want to do is get the volume pot put in there. So this volume pot, this actually comes with the pickup. So EMG sends you your volume knob, your tone knob, your wires, everything you need for the solderless connection. Super cool, right? And for like $120. So you can get a pickup from other manufacturers, but and you're not going to get the wires. You're just going to get your pickup, and then you'll have to solder everything. But EMG is going to make it super simple for this build. I'm excited. I've never used the EMG pickups before, but this is going to be pretty cool. All right, so you have a series of washers on this. So this bottom screw, this bottom bolt here is your set screw height or your set bolt height. What you do is you pop that into the cavity there. We're going to pop that in and we're going to use that to set the height to make sure that our volume knob isn't too low to the body. You want to have a little bit of a gap, about as much of a gap as that nut is. So we're going to adjust that a little bit until we get the right height with this all the way down on the knob. And then once we get it to that point, we'll take the knob off and we'll tighten the top nut that's going to tighten on top of the guitar body. But it's cool because that washer, you have a lock washer that goes down below to keep it from spinning when you're increasing or decreasing volume, and then your washer that sits on top of the body actually sits inside of that washer. That's pretty cool too. So you'll end up hiding all of those washers and stuff with the volume knob. All right, so what we do, first of all, we unscrew the nut and take the top washer off, and then we stab this down into, gently, down into the cavity of the body. And you can see here, that's all we do. So we set it in there, and we'll hold it, and we'll flip it over so we can see the other side. Then we put the washer on top. Okay, washer on top. And then we put the nut back on. So once you get the nut just hand tight, what we're gonna do, if we can get this thing on. There we go. All right, so we get this thing hand tight. Just make sure that it's gently snugged down to the guitar body. Okay, so now you can see it twists volume up, volume down, nice and free. The back you can see doesn't have any rubbing or clearance issues with any of the other components. What we'll do for final assembly though, because we're going to be plugging wires into these prongs, you'll want to turn the control board for all that stuff facing the back. So you'll want the prongs on the control board there to face that way. All right, that way you can plug the wires into this for your controls. Okay, so that's that. We're gonna flip this back over and we're gonna check the height of the volume knob. Okay, so all you do, you just gently press this thing over the top, and looks like our initial test height is pretty good. Hopefully you'll be able to see that there's just a tiny little bit of clearance between the knob and the body, and that's what you want. You don't want a ton of clearance, but you want just enough so that you can fit like a business card or something underneath it. That way it doesn't rub on the body or rub the paint or rub your stain off. All right, so that's that. And then once you're finally done with everything, there is an Allen screw right here. You'll set that nice and tight and the knob won't pop off. There's a couple more things we need to do. We need to figure out where our battery box is going to live, and because this is an active pickup, you need a 9-volt battery supply to power the pickup. So a lot of companies make these battery boxes where they can where you can slide the battery in and it clips in, and this cable supplies all the power you need for your pickup. And then you would just screw this in the 4 places here to a point on your guitar. Now, a lot of guitars, a lot of these Jazzmasters, let's say, will have a separate route cavity here for a battery box, and you would have that placed in the guitar. I'm choosing, because I knew I was only going with a volume pot, no tone selector. I knew I was going to have extra room in this cavity here, and I opted to not have a separate route for the battery box. I'm going to mount the battery box inside the cavity because I have so much room in there. I want to keep as much wood in this as possible. I want this to be a heavy, dense guitar with lots of sustain. So for me, I think I just wanted to keep as much wood intact as possible. So very minimalistic. And so this battery box is going to go in here. What we will have to do at another time is figure out how we're going to connect the battery box with the cables that were given to us from EMG. Next thing we're going to do is get our output jack mounted to the back of the guitar. So when you're playing guitar, you need to plug your cable in somewhere so that it can receive all the signal that the pickup and strings are sending to it. And then your cable goes to your amplifier, and that's how everybody hears you. So the way we do that is with this little contraption here. So your cable goes in to this point, and it sits and makes contact with all these connections here. Okay, with these 2 main connections. And that's how your signal to your amplifier is transferred. So what we do, you can see that there's already a pre-drilled hole. Again, this was an option from Warmoth of what size hole did you want it, where did you want it. Sometimes you'll see them up here, like on Stratocaster. Sometimes you see them down here. I wanted to go with it on the side. I wanted to keep the top of the body nice and clean. So I'm going to go with the option here. Now, what you do is you combine this output jack plate with the output jack, and then you screw it in, covering the hole. Okay, so you'll see that there's a nut and a couple of washers on here. So we do a very similar thing to what we did with the volume knob, where you're placing this through a hole. You have your lock washer on the back, which will keep it from rotating. So now as this sits in the hole of the output jack, you put the nut back on, and that's it. That's super simple. What we will do is get these things connected. So we're going to take a look at our wiring harness here. And this comes from EMG with your pickups. So what we're going to look at here, this is our diagram for a master volume switch and a pickup only. Very simple, very straightforward. You have a cable from your battery to your pickup, and that sends basically the signal. You have your pickup to your master volume, and then everything goes out to the output jack. So you'll see here, this is the output jack. I'm going to rotate it so we are looking at the same thing here. These two, you'll see a total of like 5 prongs. So you see S, R, and T, and then 2 prongs. And those 2 prongs are these big guys here. So essentially this input here is the T, this is the S, this is the R. Okay, so we will need to make sure that the proper wires are connected to the proper jacks on this output. Otherwise, our pickup's not going to sound very good. So we have a ground, we have the output from our master volume going to the other 2. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and hook those up really quick. I've got to set that down. So what we're going to find now, we're going to find our battery cable wire, which is the black cable. We're going to need to find the output cable for the pickup. So that's just this single pickup with these 2 braided, 2 separate strand wires. All right, so that's 3 connections. So what we'll do, set this back down, and looking at the diagram, we're going to get these put on the right poles. That way we can set this in, test fit it, make sure we have enough length for the cable to install this guitar. Okay, so we're looking at the diagram the same. We've got these 2 you've got these 2 guys here that are going to hold the cable into place, making sure it's making the connections properly. We have our negative cable for the ground being the R position here. So we're going to take the black cable from the ground and we're going to just slip it over that pole. Okay, and we've got our first one done. We've got this one done, which is the black cable. Next one is our output cable from the master volume switch, which has a white and a black cable. So the next black cable from the output goes in the center position. Put that in the center position there. Here, I'll do a little close up. So this one is from our negative ground for the battery. This comes from the volume pot. All right, and the volume pot has this dual wired plug. The solderless plug goes into the volume pot, and then it has the 2 wires. The 2 wires that come off, there's a black and there's a white. Black one goes in the middle, and the white one goes on the other pole. Okay, so you've got your 3 wires going to your output jack, and that's how you wire the output jack. And then these will solder directly, these are solderless, so these will plug right into the input. This will go to the battery box when we install that, and that will give us our ground from the 9-volt battery supply. So what we're gonna do is just get this slid into place from the top of the guitar here. We'll turn this back up, run the wires through. And again, all we're doing here and now is just test fitting everything. We want to make sure this has a nice proper fit, and we want to make sure that when we go to play this, nothing falls out or nothing comes loose. Okay, so they call this the football plate jack. You can see that slides into the body pretty nicely there. And all we have to do is screw that in. So the next thing, now that this is in place, I think it's pretty snug. It can't really go anywhere else. I think we're good. So I'm going to just eyeball this as far as alignment goes. And then we're going to take this tool, the awl. Okay, the awl is just has a point on it. This is good for making marks, starter marks for screws. That way you don't screw things up. You can get the screw hole right in the center the first time, and you don't have to try and re-drill anything. So this is a great tool to have in your collection if you're doing any sort of woodworking or anything handyman. This will get your pilot hole started for your screws. So you just push that down. You could use the big hammer, the BFH, to tap it a little bit farther. Okay, if you want to get a good, a little bit deeper hole there, we're going to do that with this one too. Okay, I'm not going to drill any of these holes, but I am going to just use the screwdriver to put the holes in there. All right, so a little closer look. You can see what the awl does with the holes. Yeah, just allows you to make some nice clean holes for your pre-drill before you, screw this thing up. All right, so next thing we do, so the next thing we do is we're going to screw the 2 screws into that plate with our screwdriver. So let's double check and use a smaller screwdriver head on this next one. Nope, we're going to use the same one that we did for the bridge. Okay, so kind of hold the screw with your finger and up against the screwdriver. You're going to put that in, put a little bit of pressure, let the screw do the screwing as you get that down into the right hole. Okay, so we're putting that in, not all the way just yet. We want to make sure the other screw gets in. So doing the same method, we're going to put that screw head on, use our index finger, and find that hole and start to screw it in. So that awl that we just used is a really cool tool to give you that pre-hole, that pre-drilled kind of feel, the pilot hole, I guess you could call it, to get your screws into the right place. Okay, and then as we get closer to getting this all the way down, we're just gonna hand tighten these for now until they're snug. We're not gonna over tighten them yet, but now we know that that's in. So that's in. We could look at the other side. We could see now that the output jack is in and screwed in, not super tight, but snug. We can see that the wires have come through the back of the cavity now. So you have your wires here. You can see them coming through the back of the cavity. These will go to the different parts of the guitar. This will go to the volume knob and connect in there. And you can see that it's going to be pretty close to actually fitting into there. We may have to extend this, to be honest, looking at it now, because we can't change the position of the volume and we can't change the position of the output jack. So, and this may not be long enough. But the good thing is this pickup came with a volume and a tone knob, and it did come with an extra one of these. So worst case, I can cut it and splice it and extend it. I'm thinking I would rather have a little bit of extra space as opposed to having this be too tight. So my initial thought is this will be too tight because right now it's only about halfway down on that solderless input on the back of that volume knob. So I will end up cutting this, splicing a little bit more wire into it from the other one, just to give that a little bit more length. Okay, and then this will go to the battery box. All right. Now, the other thing we're going to do is just do a quick check, so we know that this cable also plugs into the back of the volume. All right, this one has a ton of extra space here. And this is from the pickup. This cable goes to the battery bus. So this is the battery bus here. This supplies our pickup with its power. So we have the battery bus, which has a cable in it already. And we have a red cable that's coming from the pickup. So the red cable goes into the battery bus here. And then this red cable will go with this black cable from the output jack. These two will connect to the red and black wires on the battery box. So once you have a battery in here, it's sending power, that 9-volt power, through these cables into these cables. It's going to power the pickup, and it's going to give you that sound you need. All right, so that's how that works. I am glad that we did this to make sure that everything fits, rather than getting it all together and then having to take cables off and solder them again with any of the components open. So that's always a good thing. Test fit it first, make sure you have everything, then go back and do your final assembly with all the parts that you maybe need to modify. Okay, so in our case, the only thing we're going to need to modify is this cable to be a little bit longer. We just don't have quite the room there. All right, and you never want to like pull on stuff like this because you're going to be playing, this thing will be moving. There's a chance that that could slip out if you don't extend it. Okay, so we've got the wiring done. Let's put the pickup in. Let's get the pickup in the guitar so we can see how awesome it's going to look. This is the EMG 81X active pickup. It's a humbucker. This is what James Hetfield from Metallica uses, and a number of other guys. I think Jim Root uses EMG pickups, Jim Root from Slipknot, and you can tell by that I have this Jazzmaster body. I'm a big Slipknot, I'm a big Jim Root fan, so this is really the reason why I chose the Jazzmaster body, was because I wanted to play like Jim Root. It may never happen. It probably will never happen, but he's still awesome, and I'm still gonna cherish building this guitar. The back of these are super cool. They are sealed. You can't get any dust into them or anything, and then they have the cool solderless pickups here. All right, so if this was the day that we were installing our guitar and our pickup, we would want to make sure that the red wire was facing here. Okay, so red wire plugs in there. Boom, that slides in, solderless. All right, and then everything slides back down and through the cavity. Make sure there's no wires pinched or anything there. And we've got our pickup mounted. That's it. That is all we need to do. Okay, so we're going to just see how much room we have here. We've got a little bit up and back. We are pretty close. If we're all the way forward in the cavity, you can probably see this little bit of gap into the cavity there. So we want to make sure that that is set back enough to cover that cavity up. There's not a lot of room left and right, so these are very precise, and I think using the awl again in this is going to be really critical to make sure that we get the pickup in the right positions. So it comes with 4 little screws to mount the pickup ring to the body. We're going to use this awl again. So I'm going to try to make sure that the hole is going right into the center of the opening for that pickup ring. We're going to press down gently just to get a pilot hole going. I'm going to keep this hand holding the pickup ring down so it doesn't move. And we're going to make our pilot holes in this, 4 pilot holes before we start putting the screws into it. Okay, and this one's going to be a little bit tricky to get to. All right, so we have 4 holes. We'll pop this out really quick. We have 4 pilot holes for these 4 screws to hold in the pickup ring. All right, so we're just going to do these manually again like we did with the output jack on the guitar. Take these 4 screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we'll just get these started manually. And again, just gently, you let the screw do the work. Put gentle pressure on it, not too much, because 1, you don't want the screw to strip out, you don't want the body to crack. You want to make sure you're giving equal pressure across all of them. We're going to go in a diagonal pattern here and do this hole. Okay, give it 3-4 turns. We'll do the next one. Okay, everything's still lined up. A little bit of pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns, and we'll do the final one right there. Okay, so we've got that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns. We'll get this in a little bit more. Give these a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm just going to go around and gently get these to the top of the pickup ring, just so it's seated in the bevel of that pickup ring. I'm still going to keep these a little bit loose. I'm not going to do them really tight right now. We're going to do our final assembly, and then we'll do a couple extra turns just to make sure everything is a little bit more snug than what we're doing right now. So we'll save the deeper drilling for our final assembly. You can see this is moving just a little bit, but it's fine. We put the pickup in the pickup ring already using the springs, so now we have the adjustability of the pickup in here because of those springs. So you can turn this, and you can probably see that the pickup is rising, or you go counterclockwise turn and it'll sink the pickup down. That's how you raise your pickup height. Now we can put on the battery, the back route cover, if you want to call it that, and we'll keep all of that contents and those wires locked in. And then what we're going to do, we're going to put the neck on this thing next. So I'm going to just get these in quickly.
Get these 4 screws in. All right, 1, 2. I won't get these tightened all the way down, but just enough to keep everything from falling out and to keep from losing these screws. Okay, these are already pre-drilled. You can tell they're a bit easier going in. Again, the guys at Warmoth are the ones that pre-drilled these. They've got lathes and they've got mills, and they have all the cool tools to set these things up almost automatically. All this stuff gets machined and stuff, so you don't have to worry about messing up.
A body like this, like from Warmoth, you're looking around $300 for this body, and that's just the bare wood. That's with the custom cavity design and everything like that. But that's what this is. Everything goes up from there if you want custom finishes or paint on them. If you want a chambered body. Next thing we are going to do, we're going to install the neck. So this is another Warmoth product. It's a rosewood neck with a Wenge fretboard. So really cool looking wood, really cool looking design in the rosewood on the back. Super impressed with how this neck turned out. All right, and these are easy. This is already pre-drilled. These are already pre-drilled. So what we do is we get our screws ready. We already have the back plate and the screws, and we're just gonna get these put in and get them screwed down. Not super tight, but we're just gonna get it screwed down enough so that we can see what this guitar is gonna look like after it's all fully assembled. Okay, so biggest thing is you never want to slide the neck in this way. You want to get it into the pocket and set it right in. So this thing is perfect. There's not a lot of movement, hardly any movement left and right on this thing. It does, you know, when you buy from the same company, you have the same tooling and it just fits perfectly. Okay, so we'll put that in. We'll flip this over so we have access to the holes. All right, we're going to get the screws out of here first. Put this on. We'll hand thread a couple of turns into each one to avoid stripping out the holes, if that was even an option. But these are going in nice and perfect and smooth. And then you just take the screwdriver and you snug them down. Won't be doing a super tight snug on these, as this is just a test fit for everything. So you want to just keep an eye on the neck plate here. That does have the bevels in all the holes, so the screws will be basically aligning the neck plate. All right, so don't do it too tight. Make sure the neck plate is in where it needs to go. All the screws are seated properly, and then you can give it a couple little turns to tighten it down, and that's it. So here's a look at the Jazzmaster that's going to go together. We've got the Warmoth neck in the rosewood, beautiful, beautiful wood. We've got the Swamp Ash Warmoth body. We have a very nice EMG 81X active pickup, the Schaller 475 bridge. All of the EMG stuff is solderless, so it's going to make final installation really easy. But you can see the basics of putting a guitar together. This is it. We've done it in the last 20 minutes, and that's all you really need to do. So I would say don't be afraid to put together your own guitar. Have fun. Buy some parts from these manufacturers here. And, you know, if you have any questions on any of this, definitely subscribe, like, and comment. Leave it in the comments. I'll get back to you if you have any questions on anything, or if you want to know anything else about these products. I'll definitely chime in wherever needed. So thanks for watching. I'm Tim with Two White Dudes. We'll catch you next time.